Melbourne's empty land. Let's have a look. Good morning, everyone. I'm Florian Heise, and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I've got my morning stein of coffee, and I thought we'd start the day with an article shared to me by one of the viewers about land in Melbourne that is remaining empty. Even though apparently property prices are shooting up, according to certain sources, in Melbourne and Sydney, investors are financing more than ever. I really think it's refinancing. Landowners in Melbourne are struggling to settle on their developments. Now, we've discussed this in the past, where people would buy land and they would struggle to refinance, so the land would go back on the market. It would go back on the market. Another thing in Victoria that I want to draw your attention to is the housing crash in Melbourne has affected their budget. Their stamp duty, 5.2 billion right down in stamp duty. So what did the Labor government in Victoria do? Oh, well, they tightened their belt, decreased spending and reduced taxes. No, they didn't do that. Not at all. They just put up taxes. So guys, check out that video and have a look at that, because all of this stuff flows together. All of it flows together. And one thing I'm going to bring up, I'll bring up my favorite quote here from Berry, one of my favorite quotes. And 2016, 67% of our GDP growth came from just Sydney and Melbourne. And the big issue is, a lot of that is driven by stamp duty, stamp duty desire. The government is wanting that money, needs that money, becomes dependent upon that money. So let's jump back to this article and have a look here at this. And please, if you're interested in these type of videos, if you think they're important, get the word out, share them with your friends and family. Help the channel grow, help more people realize that what we're being told by the media every day may not be the entire side of the story. Just writing because it's all rosy isn't going to ensure it's rosy forever, is it? So I'll have a shot of coffee. And this is from Domain. So, land in Melbourne's outer suburbs is sitting empty into next year as buyers struggle to settle. Buyers are struggling to settle. Blocks of residential land in Melbourne's outer suburbs, where new houses could be built, are set to keep sitting empty into next year, even amid the city's housing affordability woes. Some buyers who've already paid a 10% deposit for land are now struggling to get finance. So just think about that. They're struggling to get finance. Our cash rate is the lowest it's ever been. APRA have changed the rules with regards to financing. They've made it easier. They've loosened up the requirements, and people are still struggling to get finance. So they can't settle their purchase, and they're desperate to sell to someone else, with the land remaining vacant in the meantime. So this is what we read about before, where the land is getting bought, people can't get the finance, can't build their house on it. I mean, there you go. See, this is the question. Can they just not afford the land itself? Has the valuation of the land dropped so much that they can't get the finance? Perhaps. Changes in bank lending criteria or drops in land values below the original contract price as the housing market weakened have made it harder for buyers to arrange loans, meaning they face losing tens of thousands of dollars in deposits if they forfeit the sale. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Someone left a comment on a video where they just organized 2 loans for a party. What had happened is their apartment had decreased in value. They'd already made an $80,000 deposit, and they're at risk of losing that. So they had to take another $300,000 loan on a residential property to pay the $800,000 for that apartment. What does that tell you, guys? They didn't want to write off the $80K. Would you? Let me know in the comments. Would you just take the loss? Would you take the $80K loss and walk away? Or would you, double down? Would you double down? That, I guess it depends on what your long-term prospects are. Maybe it's investment property, you need to use it. But, owning these properties, there's a cost associated with owning a house, with owning an apartment, particularly if there's if the apartment could be potentially worth negative. What happens if it was built in the recent 20 years and you don't know about the construction issues that might appear? What do you think, guys? Let's have a discussion about that in the comments. How many of you would take the hit and step away? How many of you would double down? So, BAS Economics Associate Director of Residential Property, Angie Sigomanis, said it was an unfortunate situation for buyers who were being left out on a ledge by the banks. It's made a lot of people go to non-bank lenders, Mr. Sigomanis told Domain. The wave of blocks coming to the market is causing a short-term oversupply. Experts say adding this could be resolved within the next 2 years as the population grows and more buyers enter the market. Next 2 years. That could be a long time sitting on an asset there. 2 years. And yet we're reading all these things where property is going up apparently. I'm of the opinion that it is just the upper end of the market. It's pushing the averages up. So they can report on it in a particular way. And a lot of that seems to be, it doesn't take much to drive, upper end market percentages, particularly we've got low supply. And if you've got unrest in Hong Kong and people coming over and, buying up big properties, I don't think overall in the long term it would make a big difference, but I think it could fuel a short-term blip. It kind of aligns with what we're seeing. So this is little comfort for those unable to move onto their land, competing against other vendors as they try to on-sell blocks for which they paid a deposit to developers. Now here's the problem. Here is the problem. If you buy in any of these apartment buildings, if you buy in any of these developments, you have the risk that you will constantly be competing with other people. That 100 apartments, there are probably 2 or 3 selling at the same time. You're always competing with them. And here now you've got you've got a whole series of people that have overpaid for the property. There you go. So nominating another buyer to take on a sales contract pre-settlement is known as sale by nominee. So that is a tough situation to be in, but sadly it's how much of the property's going for down there? Maybe it's worth just taking the 10%. That'd be tough. First home buyers are set to get extra help from the federal government's first home loan deposit scheme from next year, but it will not assist those who've already bought. See, here's another thing to just drive up the market even more. Oliver Hume's property research manager, George Bargius, estimated there were somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 blocks of land for resale in Melbourne, including sales by nominee. 5 to 3,000. That is a big difference, but that's a lot. 3,000 alone is a huge number of properties. Even though the banks loosened the rules a few months ago, there are still some people who cannot proceed with the sale, he said. That's the biggest thing. The banks really did loosen the rules, and now interest rates are so low, and they still can't get finance. What is that telling you? What is that telling you? More than 2,000 new lots were selling each month at the peak of the market in 2017. Now, as the outer suburbs continue to recover from large drops in median house prices, just over 700 new lots sell every 4 weeks, and blocks are taking longer to sell, the group's research has showed. So there you go. There you go. So one Gumtree ad offers a $15,000 discount on a Mickleham sale by nominee, and others offer negotiated prices or free architectural designs. Why are they giving away free architectural designs? Wait, that's only 280 grand. These aren't that expensive. Well, there you go, 400. 450 negotiable. Brand new 400 square meter land for sale. Purchase price was 4,670. Okay, that is actually pretty expensive just for a block of land. Nearly $500,000 for some dirt. That's quite high. Well, at least from my Brisbane perspective, and you don't even get a house on it. Then, so you're paying another couple of $100 grand, probably 200 for a little house on there. You could go cheaper. They should just get a little tiny 1-2 better and stick it on there, and then design it in such a way that they can extend it. Go low cost, and then build it. Build a bit now as you need it, and then extend out. If you don't want to lose your deposit and you want to live there, but if you're so far out, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I mean, where? Yeah, Little Point hang on. I'm going to look this up. Life Point Cook. Okay, we'll jump over here. Where are we sitting? That's not that far. That's not that far at all from Melbourne. Yeah, I grew up out here in Coldstream. That's not that far at all. I mean, what would the commute be in from there, guys? Let me know in the comments if you live out here, what the commute's in if you're in the city. I mean, it looks like a nice area here. I know there's some problems in the western suburbs with some social issues, but then again, there also are in the eastern suburbs. That's Melbourne, guys. Yeah, it's not as far out as I thought. Still, about 450, but he doesn't have ocean views. So, you drive 10 to 15 minutes to Stockland Point. There you go. So, Morningstar banking and analyst Nathan Zaya warned banks considered their exposure to specific suburbs when granting home loans. Sometimes, while a borrower might think comparable prices are down 5 to 10%, so I should still be fine, the bank's more conservative valuation could come in much lower. It comes amid a slowdown in construction across the country, with new residential building work done falling 9.2% in the year to June, a quarter on ABS figures. So there you go, 9.2% down. Well, if you're a follower of this channel, I've discussed the decline in the construction sector. Frankly, our sector, our part of the economy is in recession. I would put better carton on it. Not better carton on it, just the phone calls I'm having with mates. First home buyers Kirby Keeper and husband Jason have struggled to sell their block of land near Melton South since February, despite their reasonable price. So where is Melton South? We'll have a look at this. Good old Google Earth. Melton South, Victoria. We will jump over here. Okay, so it's out. It's pretty. Yeah. Okay. I guess. I mean, there's a lot of... Yeah, would you want to live out there, guys? How far is it? You're pretty much near Ballarat, eh? Okay, not quite. But that's my childhood memories of driving to Ballarat. It seemed like it'd take forever to get out there. So there you go. I mean, you are a little bit out there. You're a little bit out there, but still. They bought near the peak of the market and settled in December. But as property prices dipped, they decided to sell and instead buy an established house closer to the city. We'd actually be in the house if we'd built it, Miss Kipper said. Hindsight is an amazing thing. Agents are fielding calls from owners wanting to resell resell land they own or sell by nominee. I get calls 2 or 3 times a week from people trying to sell their block. Barry Plant Melton partner and auctioneer Nick Nixolik said. There's a lot of land available which is keeping prices down. Owner-occupier vendors are competing with speculators who bought during the boom. First National Westwood Werribee Rob Westwood said some speculators were pricing too high in the current market. They're asking for 2 years ago prices which are about 15 to 20% too high, Mr. Westwood said. Domain economist Trent Wiltshire said the recent turnaround in Melbourne's property market was mostly concentrated in the city's inner and eastern suburbs. Prices haven't rebounded in the outer suburbs. There you go. But house prices also didn't fall as much in those areas in 2018 and 2019. So if the valuation is down 15 to 20% of this land from 2 years ago, why isn't that being reported in the media? Or why did I have to find it in the middle of a Domain article? That should be a headline, shouldn't it? Wonder why it isn't. So some buyers left in the lurch are looking for options such as extended settlement. MB law solicitor Michael Benjamin, who deals with property and conveyancing, said, I see a lot more clients go to second tier or private lenders. They charge a 6% or 7% higher interest rate and the clients take it up just so they don't lose their land or deposit, he said. Developers are also stepping in. Sattler Chief Executive Nigel Sadly, based in Perth but active in Melbourne, said buyers are renegotiating sales prices after paying a deposit. Reputable developers are rewriting contracts. If the sale cancels, they're not going to sell it at the old price, he said. Yes, well, there you go. He understands the market. It's better to get a portion of it than to get nothing at all, because they're stuck with it too. He believes those selling at a discount online were mostly Uber-driving speculators looking to make a quick flip, or foreign investors unable to get finance. Nothing wrong with Uber driving. Lotus Living project director Daniel Smith said they were allowing longer settlements as buyers faced losing land and deposits already paid to builders. No purchaser wants to lose their deposit, and we don't want to lose the sale, Mr. Smith said. Mum and dads will look to move heaven and earth to find the finance. Oliver Hume's George Bogus said, while things may look grim for landowners, this is part of the market cycle and it would turn within the next 2 years. He said the market was buoyed by Melbourne's booming population and the first home loan deposit scheme to begin next year. So here you go. They're putting hopes on this scheme to keep the bubble going. In future, land in outer Melbourne could be undersupplied as the population barrels more than 6 million people by 2029. Wow, 6 million in Melbourne. What's it going to be like living there then? Property Council of Australian Victoria Executive Director Crescinda Wall said there was a delicate balance between supply, demand and lending conditions. By the time demand increases, it is likely there will not be sufficient supply in the Melbourne market and prices will increase, notwithstanding the current issues with valuations, she said. Domain contacted Victorian Housing Minister Richard Wynne for comment and was referred to Treasury, who did not respond. Domain also contacted the Big Four and APRA, and they did not respond. So there you go, guys. It is interesting to see, where these properties are located, how far out from the city they actually are, how much they're asking for them. 450 grand just shows you how much higher the Melbourne market is to Brisbane. I'd be expecting a house and land for that closer to the city. Well, there you go. It's not Melbourne. Weather's better here too, to be honest. Weather's much better in Queensland than it is down there. So what do you think, guys? Do you think the people should hold on to the property? Would you take the loss and run? Or would you renegotiate? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Like, share and subscribe. If you'd like to help me produce more of this content, I have affiliate links and Patreon and subscribe side down below. Every bit helps and I really appreciate it. Take care, everyone. I'll talk to you later. I'll just find this outro. There we go. So organized.